Today on Fresno State Focus, we'll explore the persistent problem of poverty in Fresno County, which a few years ago ranked second poorest in the nation.
Also, what Valley farmers are doing to try to overcome the effects of California's drought, which is in its fourth year.
Then we'll take a look at how some residents are working to address hunger by helping others in need. Fresno State Focus starts now. Hello and welcome to Fresno State Focus. I'm Elisa Bernal.
And I'm Joshua Robinson. For our first newscast of the spring semester, we're taking an in-depth look at two big Central Valley issues, poverty and water. California is suffering through its worst drought since the late 1970s. Millions of people are affected, and Fresno State Focus reporter Matthew Criswell tells us what farmers are doing to combat the low rain levels in California.
In a state driven by agriculture, water is an incredibly valuable commodity, a fact that many local farmers have become all too familiar with. Dale Ripley has been in the agricultural business in some form for about 70 years. He understands better than most how valuable water can be. He considers himself lucky, however, to live in the area that he does.
On the actual water level is 72 feet here, which is not bad.
Many farmers, not only from this area, but from around the world, go to the World Ag Expo in Tulare to meet with companies and learn about the newest innovations in irrigation. Sermatech, a company from Silicon Valley, was featured at this year's expo earlier this month. CFO Jim Hansel showed farmers Sermatech's newest innovation, the Aquamon.
Ag world is one that farmers use to take sensor input from the ground and from their crop to get the maximum usage out of the limited water that they have.
Companies like Reinke Manufacturing have been in business for a long time and are trying to bring their way of using water to farmers around the Central Valley. Rick Hanshu, the Southwest Territory Manager for Reinke, believes that pivot irrigation is the future in California.
Well, pivot irrigation allows growers to become more efficient in the field. We can save water with our irrigation systems. They save labor. All of this allows a grower to become more efficient and more profitable.
Farmers are also being forced to go to more expensive measures to deal with the lack of water.
Low rain levels have created a deficiency of the cheap surface water that many farmers prefer to use, and has now forced them to dig even more expensive, new or deeper wells and pump the more expensive groundwater.
Valley grape grower Pete Filippi understands just how expensive it can be to dig a new or deeper well.
A new well is going to be about $30,000 where I am. Up to, depends on the depth and the pumps I put on it, it could be up to $60,000. But that's not as bad as other guys. There's other guys that are $250,000, depends on the depth.
Dale Ripley realizes that this water will not last forever. He says the wasteful uses of water must change if California is going to continue to be so dependent on water, and it is time for others to realize this also. Matthew Criswell, Fresno State Focus.
Just 3 years ago, 3 areas in the Central Valley ranked among the top 5 poorest regions in the nation. Fresno was number 2 after McAllen, Texas. Bakersfield and Modesto were 4th and 5th. However, much has changed recently. The number of homeless in Fresno County is steadily dropping. Fresno State Focus reporter Rodney Matthews explains why the valley's poverty rate is showing signs of improvement.
One of Fresno's success stories is this village of temporary shelters. It's across the street from Paparello House, a place where anyone can go for a hot meal 7 days a week.
I visit on and off. I come mainly to eat because I don't have any source of income or employment.
Lashmay Sandhu has been in and out of custody for the past year and a half. Fresno's homeless include people like Sandhu who can't find a job. Others are drug addicts, alcoholics, and veterans.
A lot of them are vets. Because of the VA hospital being here, they come here for treatment, but they don't have anywhere to live. And so the goal of the mayor and our board is to develop housing. It starts out as temporary, and then we make it permanent.
United Way President Michael Alexander says their joint effort has helped to provide this temporary village that houses 130 people. Then, Fresno First Steps Home steps in and helps find permanent housing. So far, they've helped about 50,000 people in Fresno County.
Over the last 3 years is that we've reduced homelessness by over 50%. Many people are going to say, well, no, I still see people out on the street. I don't think homelessness is, we've made a pretty big dent in the
The difference is in the numbers. 4 years ago, 4,300 people were homeless in Fresno County. That number has dropped to 2,600. But here back at Pavarello House, they're still serving 1,200 meals a day.
Communications manager Stephanie Ortiz says they want to help people who are ready to help themselves.
But we're definitely trying to end homelessness. We know it's always going to be around, but the chronically homeless is who we're focusing on right now.
Ortiz says their goal is to end the cycle of homelessness and help people who live on the streets become self-sufficient. Rodney Matthews, Fresno State Focus.
Crime is often associated with poverty, and West Fresno is no exception. As the number of homeless continues to drop, so do the violent crime numbers, except in Southeast and Southwest Fresno. The murder rate is higher in West Fresno than anywhere else in the city, with 17 homicides last year, a 54% increase over the year before. Many residents live in fear, while others, like Erica Fuller, believe there's a solution, and it starts with the children.
Like if they can wake up in the morning and feel like they about something, or they can feel like, you know, they're worth or whatever, then I feel like it probably wouldn't be as much violence as it is right now.
Fuller points to programs like the new church-sponsored EOC gym as a step in the right direction.
While violent crime is down in other parts of the Central Valley, it's still going strong in parts of downtown Fresno. Much of that crime is connected to gang warfare. Recent reports show more than 17,000 Fresno County residents are gang members, but one man is trying to turn that number around.
Michael DeJuarez works with teenagers at an inner-city church in Fresno. He wants to reach them before they make the wrong choices like joining a gang.
Parts of my life as a teenager, I was incarcerated. And so this thought of giving back to teenagers in a place that I never got a chance to live, almost in the beginning was very intentional because I got to live all over again with these kids.
DeJuarez can't do it alone. He has a team known as Cornerstone Community Care. They go out to rough parts of Fresno to reach out to teenagers and their parents who are already in that lifestyle and show them that there is a better life. One of the members on his team is Santiago Lujan.
It's funny because he and I have a lot in common. He was incarcerated, and he's an ex-gang member, and I was incarcerated, and I was an ex-gang member. And now what we do is we reach these young men, these young gang members, and try and show them another way of life.
The efforts of DeJuarez and Lujan are not going to waste. Young men and women alike are starting to grasp on to the message of hope and changing their lives for the better.
18-year-old Charlie Pahukoa is one of those students whose life has taken a complete 180. He is a senior at Fresno High and is now an Army cadet in the junior ROTC.
They have really influenced me to become better than myself. They come from the same background that I grew up in as far as childhood environments and experiences, and it just, where they are at right now influences me because it inspires me and shows me that I can do the same. Maybe not the exact.
DeJuarez doesn't have any hard number that he can point to, but on a daily basis, he says gang members and former gang members thank him for trying to help. Not only does the city of Fresno have a man trying to reach gang members locally, but the Central Valley has another man who is going around the world, spreading a message of hope and striving to bring change. He and his wife travel with a team. Thank you for being here with us today, Lodo.
Pleasure's mine, Lisa.
So, what is your main purpose when talking to the people that you encounter whenever you go to places outside of the United States?
My main purpose is to give them a dream, because I think that's probably the most powerful tool that we have in changing their situations. We just saw clips of gangbanging and all that, and I honestly believe that those kids are out there chasing the dream. I believe the only thing that I could compare the power of a dream to is the power of a seed. You know, it's the thing that kept me waking up, hoping that I was going to be the fifth Ninja Turtles. You know, that power of the dream was, matter of fact, was the same power that put you in that seat here today.
Right, and as a former gang member, what do you hope? I guess, do you go out in hopes of inspiring people with your story? Oh,
absolutely, absolutely. I have an incredible story. You know, every day is a blessing for me. I know that every day is something better than I deserve. I was a young man, just like a lot of young men back in the 90s, came here in pursuit of the American dream. The American dream became a parent's worst nightmare as I got caught up in the gangs and drugs. Found myself at 16 years old, face to face with a sawed-off shotgun, pursuing, my dream of being this gangbanger or a drug dealer, and took a shot to the face. Woke up the next morning blind, physically blind. But I would ask, that nobody feels sorry for me, because becoming blind was actually the best thing that's ever happened to me. God only let the devil close the eyes of my face just so God can open up the eyes of my heart. And now he's able to use this kid to go around the world to open up the eyes of those who see this beautiful world better than I do, but they're still looking and they're still searching. That's why it is my life mission to get out there and let these kids know there's so much more to life than the curbside that they got to deal with every day.
Well, you have an absolutely amazing story, and thank you so much for being with us today. And we have been talking with Lodo Lealai Matafao from Lodo Ministries.
Thank you.
State Focus. We'll see how residents unite to help feed the poor in the community.
Then, how Fresno State is helping its own students in need by providing food.
Plus, we'll get an update on the new shopping center plan near campus. All that when we come back.
I am Fresno State, and I'm going to show you why. Here's the beautiful and newly constructed Henry Madden Library, which has a massive collection. The Save Mart Center, which is our sports venue and one of the best attended in the entire country. We're absolute pioneers in the agricultural sciences, having led to the production of the first university winery and drawing in a diversity of students to achieve academic success over the past 100 years. And I wish I had time to tell you about everything else, but in reality, I think you're just going to have to come see for yourself.
A former Fresno State student has spearheaded a program that's working hard to put a stop to hunger. Reporter Angelica Leilani tells us what Fresno's Meal is doing to help give back.
On the first Sunday of every month, people who call the streets home know that on this day, they're able to get a hearty, home-cooked meal.
This is a side of downtown Fresno that most people are unaware of. But for the homeless community, these are the streets that they know. And for them, it's just another day trying to survive.
I'm trying to get back on my feet.
Tomosa Salcido is homeless and pregnant. She's one of nearly 114,000 people in California who are homeless. Because she's pregnant, she's able to get shelter. But there are more than 71,000 people who have nowhere to go. As bad as that sounds, it's better than last year when there were nearly 137,000 people in California homeless. Of that, 91,000 of them were unsheltered. Salcido appreciates the volunteers who are out here today serving lunch. One of those volunteers is Michelle Rodriguez. She grew up in this area and feels a responsibility to helping people in need.
You get to experience, smiling and interacting with homeless individuals and hearing kind of if they decide to tell us, how they got there. And it's so riveting because it's not, a one mold. It's not these stereotypes that people hear.
Rodriguez, along with the other volunteers of Fresno's Meal, get together each month to make a delicious lunch. Today, it's chicken fajita burritos.
We don't want it to like a ham and cheese and bologna.
Justin Kamimoto started Fresno's Meal right out of his parents' kitchen. What he first thought of as just family and friends getting together to make some plates turned into much more than that.
We know that we can only do so much, so that's where our community comes in, and they've been very supportive of our effort to do at least 100. And when we do at least 100, we see that a good majority of people in one location get a meal.
Kamimoto is talking about the Painted Table, a caterer that is providing all of the food and the kitchen every month for the rest of this year. By the end of this year, they hope to feed at least 200 people each time they go out. A tasty meal that brings a little bit of comfort during a rough time. Angelica Leilani, Fresno State Focus.
To date, Fresno's Meal has given out more than 1,500 meals.
When you hear the term starving student, you may not realize how close to the truth that expression might be. College students are among those who are food insecure. Citlali Ocampo takes a look at a new program at Fresno State that is making sure no student is left behind.
At 50 years old, Brenda is not your typical student. But it's not only her age that sets her apart. It's her dedication to the Fresno State Student Cupboard and helping students.
And being able to help them get through this really tough time of struggling to make ends meet while you're going to school, I can empathize because I'm doing the same thing.
Hartman, who is a food and nutrition major, says even at her age, she's been forced to take out loans. She also understands what it's like to be jobless, as the cupboard is her first job in 5 years, which is why Hartman is one of hundreds of students who uses a cupboard to survive. Fresno State started the program in November after it found more than 30% of its students did not know where their next meal was going to come from.
The focus of the student cupboard is to break the stereotypical role of a starving college student by providing them with the necessary items they need to help stretch their wallet.
This is personal hygiene on this wall. The food is pretty self-explanatory.
And thanks to engineering student Christopher Dota, lots of oranges. He donated a huge box of oranges from his backyard trees.
And some students have a lot of loans and stuff that they just can't handle the extra bills of grocery shopping. People have to make decisions, and if food doesn't have to be one of those decisions because it's provided for on campus, that's a good thing.
The cupboard gets its food in a variety of ways. In addition to donations, it buys food and hygiene products from the community food bank for a few cents on the dollar. Any Fresno State student can use the cupboard, but there is a limit on the number of items a student can take. Project coordinator Jessica Medina says so far they've served 700 students in 38 days, and the response has been overwhelming. Medina tells the story of one student who walked in with a big smile on her face.
And she said, you know, my roommates just went to the student cupboard and they showed me all the food that they got, and it's really just a blessing to be able to know that we now have food on our shelves in our refrigerator this week, and one less thing to have to worry about.
And that's what Brenda Hartman is counting on, making sure no student is left behind. Citlali Ocampo, Fresno State Focus.
And Wednesday through Friday from 2 to 5. On Thursdays, it's open from 12 to 5. Right now, the cupboard is being funded by Fresno State. However, after June, it will be on its own, looking for donations.
This year's Fresno State Talk series will conclude with a lecture called Who Cares? Genocide, Historical Memory, and Moral Responsibility. Dr. Sergio Laporta will be the speaker, a Harvard graduate and professor of Armenian Studies at Fresno State. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Laporta.
Thank you, Joshua.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose this subject for your talk?
Sure. 2015 marks the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide, in which 1.5 million Armenians were murdered by the Young Turk regime of the Ottoman Empire. And so when I found out that I was nominated for a Fresno Talk, it was very clear to me that this would be the subject of my discussion.
Now, you mentioned the nomination, and for those of us that aren't aware, nominations come from students that are asked, what professor inspires me? So in what ways are you hoping you can inspire students that will attend your talk tomorrow night?
Sure. Unfortunately, the Armenian genocide isn't as well known as it should be, and so tomorrow night I'm hoping that I will show why the Armenian genocide is not only important as a historical event, but continues to have a relevance for us today.
What kind of process have you gone through when you were preparing for the content of your talk over the last couple of weeks or months?
Well, the process has been quite a challenging one, and there's a lot of information that needs to be conveyed in a relatively short amount of time. So I've been working with students and colleagues trying to make sure that my presentation will be as effective as possible.
You mentioned colleagues. Were you able to see any of the other former Fresno State talks that we've already had this semester?
Yes, I was able to make the first one given by Professor Jess Terkelson, which was an excellent one. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the second one as I had an Armenian genocide event to attend to. But that was also very helpful to see the format and how one could present in that forum.
Would you overall say that this process has kind of allowed you an opportunity to learn something that you might not have learned if you weren't given this opportunity to do this talk?
Oh, definitely. And each time I have to give a talk it's a wonderful opportunity for me to learn, and I hope that other people will be also able to learn from it.
Well, thank you very much. I hope the event turns out very well for you tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
Dr. Laporta's seminar is tomorrow, February 26th at the Satellite Student Union. The lecture will begin at 7 with a short reception beginning at 6:30.
The square at Campus Point has hit its fair share of snags since 2004. The project was given the go-ahead to continue by an appellate court in 2008. And while there has been progress, the 45-acre development is still under construction. Opening the new Heritage Theater is the project's top priority. And Sammy Franco says he wants to open the doors of his new restaurant around the same time.
The goal was for everyone to open similar timeline of the movie theater, and I think there's a few of us who were on track to do that. But yeah, each individual building is cleared, individually, and then each space is cleared individually as well.
Franco's Beach Hut Deli will offer gourmet sandwiches and plenty of entertainment. Other restaurants joining the square include the Mad Duck, Wahoo's Fish Tacos, and Cold Stone Creamery. The square is currently scheduled for completion by the end of spring.
It's a new baseball season, but the Bulldogs are already leaving a paw print in the Mountain West. Stay tuned for sports with Eric Bentley.
So you decided to go to Fresno State. Good for you. But you were too insecure to show Fresno State pride? That's a problem. Because you never bothered to show pride in your school, you are shunned by other students. Professors can smell the stench of impending failure on you and take no pity. Even the mass communication students agree you have no future. But all of this could have been avoided if you simply showed your pride for Fresno State.
I am Fresno State.
Fresno State pride. Show it or face the consequences.
I am and always will be.
A few Fresno State baseball players are already being recognized for their early season accomplishments. Jess Ann Stymons has the story.
It's about 2 weeks into the 2015 baseball season, and Fresno State opened the first week with a Mountain West Player of the Week. The junior center fielder Brody Russell was on his A game in the opening series against UC Irvine. Matt Burkholder tells us how Russell contributed to the team wins.
Well, Brody was a vital part in every one of our comebacks that series. All 3 games, Fresno State faced a deficit, and Brody stepped up in all 3 of those games to help us.
Russell had 5 RBIs and 1 home run in the series. He tells us how he feels about being Mountain West Player of the Week.
I mean, it's obviously it's always an honor to be seen like that, but at the end of the day, it's what is the outcome of the team,
Alongside Russell, Jake Scholl was Mountain West Pitcher of the Week. The closing pitcher currently holds 2 wins under his belt.
Be nothing but proud of him as a friend, as a roommate, and as a teammate.
Going into this week, the Dogs look at how to improve as individuals and as a whole after being swept by Nevada this past weekend.
The Dogs are now 3-5, but Taylor Ward says it's only the beginning.
It just brings you back to reality and how we swept last weekend here at Irvine. Just good dose of reality, and it's still early and we're fine, so it's all good.
Diamond Dogs play UNLV at Biden Field this weekend in a 3-game series. Jasan Stymons, Fresno State Focus.
The Diamond Dogs battled last night until the end before falling to USC in the 10th inning. In the bottom of the 6th, pinch hitter Taylor Temple raked the pitch into left field and the ball sailed over the fence, and just like that, the Bulldogs tied the game at 2. And here's that highlight I was just talking about. There he goes. He takes that pitch way deep into left field, all the way over that wall, and that tied the score at 2. And then top of the 10th inning, the score was still tied when Garrett Stubbs was intentionally walked. The second intentional walk from the Dogs on the night. The bases were loaded now, and then Jake Scholl unintentionally walks in the go-ahead run. The Dogs couldn't score in the bottom half of the 10th, and they fall to the Trojans. Fresno State has now lost 5 straight, while USC stays undefeated. With 4 games remaining before the Mountain West tourney, I met up with a few of the women's basketball players to see how they plan to finish the season strong.
Fans that have come out to the Save Mart Center to watch the women's basketball team play this year haven't been disappointed. Whether it be the driving offense or the stifling defense, the Lady Bulldogs are putting together a great season in pursuit of their 8th straight NCAA tournament bid. After starting 9-0 in conference play, the Bulldogs lost 4 straight games to make their conference record 9-4, slipping from first place to 3rd. Coach Jamie White explained the team's struggles.
Every team has a time in the season where they struggle a little bit, and I just feel like it was our time to kind of figure a couple things out.
With 2 of the 4 losses in that streak coming in overtime, the team had to pull together to turn things around. Senior guard Alex Furr talked about how they were able to do that.
It was just a lot of communication and just letting our teammates know, each and every one of us really communicate that we trust each other and that we'll be able to bounce back.
And bounce back they did with a 64-55 win against Utah State on Saturday to snap that 4-game losing streak.
We've had a great year and we want to continue that run and we want to end on a good note, so I think that's what's going to drive us.
Even with a 10-4 conference record, the women's basketball team is still in a good position to have a good seed when the time comes for the Mountain West tournament in March. The Bulldogs would currently be a number 3 seed, but Coach White doesn't seem too concerned about who the Bulldogs could potentially play in the tournament.
We want to make sure that we've beaten most of the teams that we're going to play, and then we see them in the tournament, we know we've had success against them.
The Bulldogs' next game is tonight at the Save Mart Center. With the basketball teams getting ready for their postseason tournaments and baseball season starting up, many people don't realize that the football team is already getting ready for their upcoming season. Here to talk about us is Jamal Rose. Sorry.
It's all right.
Jamal, thanks for being here. A lot of
it.
people don't know what Red Dawn is, so can you explain kind of what Red Dawn is?
Yeah. It's basically like Hell Week. We'll go out there. Wake-up call is at 4:50 in the morning. We got to be on the field by 5:30, and we're basically out there doing drills, anything to get us back in shape from season.
And so how does that benefit the team going into spring ball? Because I know that spring ball comes up pretty close after Red Dawn's over.
Yeah, our team slogan right now is Earn It. So, we're going out there and we're just getting after it. We're going hard every day, and we're just trying to get back on track to a winning season.
Yeah, and some of the new recruits are already taking classes at Fresno State so that they're able to practice in the spring with you guys.
Yeah.
Talk about a little bit, how does that benefit the team when it comes to the whole gelling process and kind of getting everybody on the same page?
Team chemistry is really big. So getting guys in early, around the older guys, getting them ready for the upcoming season, camp, it's really big. We need a lot of chemistry to have a good season. So we need to get those guys here as quick as possible.
And then not only important in the spring just to get guys, back in shape, but how does spring ball kind of translate to over in the fall? There's that summer break. Do the things that you do in the spring does that translate over into the fall in any way?
Absolutely. Everything we do is of importance. So the spring ball, we train and we get in the playbook, we run the plays, we condition, we lift. It all transitions into the summer. Yes, we have a break, but we're also lifting in the summer. We have camp, and then come season, we're all ready to go, and everything's gelled up.
Awesome. Well, Fresno State kicks off the season on September 5th against Abilene Christian. Thanks for stopping by, Jamal.
I appreciate it.
Former Fresno State men's basketball coach Jared Tarkanian died earlier this month. The Naismith Hall of Fame inductee had a huge impact on college basketball. Coach Tarkanian led the Bulldogs to 5 NIT tournament appearances and 2 NCAA tournament appearances in his time at Fresno State. The late Coach Tarkanian will be honored before the men's basketball game this Saturday. The ceremony will include speakers such as Jerry's son Danny and former players from the Tarkanian era. On March 1st last year, Coach Tarkanian had the number 2 jersey retired in his honor. And that number 2 jersey remains the only retired number in Fresno State basketball history. Giants fans all over Fresno had the rare opportunity to see something unusual yesterday. Chukchansi Park in downtown Fresno hosted not 1, not 2, but all 3 World Series championship trophies won by the San Francisco Giants over the last 5 years. Fans waited outside for hours to have their photos taken with the trophies. The most recent trophy was won this past October after defeating the Royals on the road in Game 7. The trophies are making their way around California on the World Series Championship Trophy Tour. Fans were able to purchase photos and other memorabilia for a once-in-a-lifetime memory. And that's it for sports. Back to you, Elisa and Joshua.
Thanks, Eric. No one likes waiting in long lunch lines, especially when there's little time left to eat. The new app, Tapingo, allows students to order and pay for their food on their smartphones, making it easier to grab lunch in between classes without having to wait in long lines. The app remembers your card information so you don't have to enter it every time you order. Associate Vice President Debbie Astone says Topingo may encourage more students to eat on campus.
It was really a great solution to address, I think, a key area of service that we didn't know how to solve, and this really, really helped, I think. And so
Next week on Fresno State Focus, we'll look at the Renaissance Scholars Program and how they're helping foster youth students make it into college.
Plus, we'll show you how local artists are using the water crisis as inspiration for their new pieces and exhibits.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.